Hello, humans of the world. It is Monday. We are moving into our first area that we were going to study, and that would be Mesopotamia. And this fine gentleman behind me and his, I think, pet lion. I don't know. Anyway, we're moving into Mesopotamia. And before we get started, a few things. Be sure that you have the notes page opened up. It's the one on the previous page that looks like this. Um, this week we are going to go through and fill this out. We're going to start with geography today. Tomorrow we'll go to religion, achievements, and so on. So if you haven't already, go back to the previous page, open this up, be sure that you are able to edit because you are going to be filling this in as we go. Also, you should have heard by now that if you were going to be a in-person human when we come back after Labor Day, that will start Tuesday of next week. So this will be your last week of the virtual school. If you have decided to remain online and remain a virtual human, we will continue to do this going forward. So that is starting next week. So if you were still going to be a virtual human, that nothing really changes for you. If you are going to be an in-person human, you'll start coming back to school on Tuesday next week. So this week, however, we are going to be moving into Mesopotamia. So a couple of things before we get too far into this. First off, where is Mesopotamia? I hate to break it to you, but there is not a country named Mesopotamia. You will not find Mesopotamia on a map of the current world. It is not an actual country. Mesopotamia is actually a region of the world, roughly from here all the way, basically all of this. So you'll notice that Mesopotamia is actually just an area that today makes up several different countries in what I'll call the Middle East. So on your note sheet, make sure you write down that Mesopotamia makes up the modern day countries of Iraq, Syria, Turkey, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. Okay, so it makes up those countries, and if you see here, Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, Iraq. Mostly we'll be talking about what is today Iraq, so like this, if I can pull up my button again. So kind of this area in here is roughly what we're going to be talking about, but Mesopotamia as a region kind of goes up and in this way. So Mesopotamia actually is a Greek word, and basically it means Greek for land between two rivers. So Mesopotamia is actually the Greek word for land between two rivers. Now, you're probably looking at this going, I see no rivers there. There are actually two. Both of them are very important to this region. You have the Tigris and the Euphrates that kind of roughly do this. So to give you an idea of what those look like, so you have the Tigris and Euphrates running through Mesopotamia, Syria, Iraq, and they empty out down here. These rivers are very important to this region because if we go back to Mr. Google Earth here, you will notice that a majority of this region looks empty, desert. That's because it is an desert, basically. So a lot of the early civilizations, and even today, a lot of the people live close to either of these two rivers. I'll spell those out for you so you have an idea of how to spell it. The Tigris, Euphrates rivers. These rivers are important for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason is that these rivers often will flood periodically throughout the year, and they will, one, make it easy to water your crops, and two, they will bring rich nutrient soil along with it that will help fertilize and grow the crops. So this will be something we see again and again and again. A lot of these civilizations started along rivers and were used for irrigation to grow and water people's food. The problem with these two rivers, though, is that they are very dependent on what happens up here in the mountains. If the water doesn't melt from the snow up in the mountains and then runs down here, then down here gets super dry and empty and no water, no food. If, however, too much melts, then your crops are destroyed. And these rivers are very unpredictable in whether they'll be a good flood or a bad flood, or if they'll flood at all. So, while these rivers were the lifeline of the region, their randomness kind of caused some problems. The other thing that we need to mention is you might also see Mesopotamia mentioned as the Fertile Crescent. If you ever see me say the Fertile Crescent or see someone else mention the Fertile Crescent, they are referring to Mesopotamia because of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, because of what they can do for the region. They're often referred to as the Fertile Crescent. As far as the climate of Mesopotamia, it is what you would expect based off of this here. Very dry, very hot, a limited amount of rainfall, roughly around 10 inches a year, give or take. So the people who lived here relied on the rivers because they knew they weren't getting much rainfall otherwise. So they couldn't rely, well, if the river doesn't flood, we still have the rain, not enough to sustain life here. So in here, it's kind of dry desert. If you get along the coast, it gets more that Mediterranean, mild climate, more pleasant up here along the coast, but the large portion of Mesopotamia is very dry, very arid. And like I said, less than 10 inches of rain a year. One thing I do want to point out is that this region is known for its irrigation methods. So irrigation is just methods used to take water from the river or your water source and divert it to whatever you need it to go to, whatever crops you have. So we have evidence that the people of Mesopotamia developed canal systems, developed trench systems to move water from the river to wherever their crop field was, so that way they could water it that way. But I believe that is all we need to mention today. Your assignment is on the next page of the module. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. And if you missed something, here's what you should have on your notes sheet for geography. And I will add that you need to hot, arid climate, and so roughly 10 inches of rain a year. The Tigris and Euphrates. So that is what you should have for your notes page. If you have any questions, let me know. Other than that, I hope you guys have a good Monday, and I will see you all tomorrow.